Hello everybody and welcome to the Import-Export Hub channel. My name is Bogdan and on this channel I cover import-export related topics. In this video, as the title suggested, of course, I will cover 5 products that from my point of view are worth importing from India, or if you're an exporter based in India, that are worth exporting from there. But before I deep dive into the subject, don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe buttons. It really keeps me motivated and I assure you it means it a lot for me. So let's start with my first recommendation, which is frozen shrimps. And as we can see here, the total exports of India are more or less around $3.7 billion, with the United States having the biggest share in India's exports, almost 50%. And as we can see here, the values declined year on year with around 13%, approaching the values of 2017. On the second place, we have China approaching the $573 million mark with a share of 15% in India's exports. And here the exported values compared to 2019 contracted with almost 39%. On the third place, we have Japan with almost $308 million worth of exports towards them and a share of 8% in India's exports. Moving on to the fourth place, we have Vietnam, and on the fifth place, we have the United Arab Emirates with more than $137 million and a share of almost 4%. Now, if we look at the top 24 export destination, we see that the values declined pretty much in relation to almost all of them, except maybe we see here Canada, Italy, Kuwait, and Malaysia. And if I were in this kind of business, these were some of the markets I would focus my resources in order to diversify the export markets or keep them as much as possible in their current situation. Also, if it were for me, of course, I will focus my future growth in terms of exports on some European markets as well, like the Russian Federation or Poland, for example. So exporters of frozen shrimps from India, maybe you can find this information useful. Moving on to my next recommendation, which is HS code 6302. So bed linen, table linen, toilet linen, and kitchen linen. We see again a lot of red, so quite big contraction here also, except Australia, Mexico, Italy, and New Zealand, at least in these top 24 export destination countries. There were some quite big relative decreases year on year with Saudi Arabia, Norway, or South Africa. And in terms of total exports for 2020, they were more or less at the same values as they were in 2016. So around $1.4 billion worth of exports. And the biggest trading partners in terms of Indian exports are the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Germany, and Australia, again, just to cover the top 5 ones. Now, from an Indian exporter point of view, I will definitely try to keep my traditional partners, but also to increase some more or less regional markets like Japan or Malaysia. As for the emerging European markets, if you want, here the competition is quite tough, as we have Turkey, who has some competitive advantages also in this sector. Nonetheless, if I were to explore some European market, again, Poland would be my focus. Moving on to my third product recommendation, and we stay again in the textile sector, this time with jerseys, pullovers, and so on. Here we see that the exports are quite small. If you can say that $140 million is a small amount, but Nonetheless, we see that the market shrunk quite a lot in relative terms compared to 2019, with almost 29%, with the United States, Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and France being the top 5 export destinations. We see again a lot of red, except Japan, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Sweden, or Denmark, who had some increased values, at least in relative terms, because in absolute ones, for sure, they did not compensate the contraction of the top 5 partners. Now, from an exporter point of view, based in India, again, and considering the high level of competition with countries like Bangladesh or China, I think that for the short and medium term, I will try to keep my customers from the top 5 export destinations, and also try to focus on more or less regional export countries like Japan, South Korea, or Australia. Anyways, let's move to my fourth product recommendation, which is silver jewelry, so HS code 711311. And here, as probably expected, the values are again high, around $2 billion worth of exports. Unfortunately, much lower compared with 2016 or 2017, for example. Anyway, as I've said it in my video covering the general exports and imports of India, the jewelry sector is a very important one for India, as this is a very labor intensive one, and for sure India has some big competitive advantages. And remember that not only in the silver or gold jewelry manufacturing, if you want, but also in the diamond sector, India is pretty competitive worldwide. Anyway, the biggest export destination are Hong Kong, the United States, the United Kingdom, the United Arab Emirates, and Germany, which cumulatively represent more or less 95% of the total exports, so quite a large export market concentration. And in this top 5 partner list, only Hong Kong experienced an increase, almost 130% in relative terms, while the entire market again experienced some increased values of about 70% compared with 2019. Other big relative increases were in relation to Denmark, and here I think that the Pandora brand, which is from Denmark by the way, played an important role, but this is only pure speculation of mine, of course. If I remember correctly, their manufacturing hub is located in Thailand, but it's not impossible to have qualified a new supplier in India in order to increase the production capacity, or I don't know, to open or relocate from Thailand to India an entire business lane. Anyways, other countries to whom the relative values increased are Norway, we have China, Malaysia, and the Russian Federation. And speaking of the Russian Federation, for sure this would be a country to consider in evaluating the export potential. Another recommendation would be also Ukraine, but again, bear in mind Indian exporters of silver jewelry in this case. Here you have to compete again with Turkey, who has also some big competitive advantages, especially for the gold jewelry sector. Anyway, guys, if you're still watching this video, bear with me. This is my last recommendation. So we have semi-milled or wholly milled rice, and here the exports are mainly break bulk, if you ask me. So the rice is packed in large jumbo bags, or I don't know, 50 kilogram bags, and then shipped in containers. Anyway, here we see that the total values had 13% growth year on year, with Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, and Benin being the biggest importers. And these top five partners make up for more or less 40 or I don't know 45% of the total exports. So quite a balanced export concentration, if you ask me. In terms of year-on-year changes in this top 24, again, trading partner list, only Iran and Kuwait experienced some decreases, while with the others, the exported values increased. And seeing the export partners in dynamics, for me, it's perfectly understandable to see some increased imports in countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, or the United States, as there are quite large numbers of Indians and naturally one more or less food from their home country, so India. I live in Italy and I do understand them as I do feel sometimes the need to eat some Romanian dish. But then again, I don't understand the increases coming from Iraq, Iran, or Benin. And my guess is that this is somehow related to the pandemic panic, if you want, as governments and private companies decided to import vast amounts of rice just to be safe and have enough stock available. Rice has a relatively good shelf life and doesn't need special conditions for storing. I really don't know, it's again pure speculation, but if you have other theories, don't hesitate to comment down below. Now, in terms of future export growth or expansion, if you want, I won't consider countries like Togo, Malaysia, or Madagascar until I fully understand this huge increase in values. So until I have new information available, I consider these countries as outliers for the moment. Anyway, my focus would be on countries like, again, with a large Indian population, and I'm thinking at Australia, Kuwait, the United Kingdom, of course. Qatar is also hosting quite a large number of Indians, and let's not forget Oman as well. Other countries I would consider to focus my export strategy and future growth would be South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, Somalia, or Guinea, to cover also the African continent. Unfortunately, I think that this year, so 2021, is going to be a very difficult one for the small and medium Indian exporters or importers, and not just the Indian ones, considering the current freight rates from Asia to the United States or Asia to Europe. And that's why I think that if you want to survive, especially if you're trading low value, high volume products, you will need to find markets close or relatively close to India in order to keep your product competitive and, of course, for you to survive. Again, this is my opinion, and I might be wrong, but for sure, these freight rates should make you reconsider your short-term strategy. So there you are, guys. These are my 5 product suggestions from importing from India, or if you're an Indian exporter, to export from India. I really hope that I've managed somehow to provide you with some useful information, and I would really appreciate if you comment and hit the like and the subscribe buttons. And as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.